Hi, I'm Amanda Charlton, pathologist from Auckland. I've been consistently contributing abstracts to the medical conferences for over 20 years, and I've been an abstract and poster judge for more than 10 years for the IAP and RCPA. I like writing abstracts because it's a structured way to organise and filter a lot of ideas and concepts about a topic into a concise summary to communicate to others, represented by my random ideas in grey, being filtered, then condensed into a concise and clear, compelling summary, the red star. I like being an abstract judge because I get to read a wide and interesting variety of pathology topics and find out what is new and who is an expert in the field. But sadly, the writing style and structure of many conference abstracts is poor, and in anatomical pathology, the most frequent abstract type is the single case report. This type of contribution is a good starting point, but ultimately of low significance and impact. This online presentation is to help you write a good abstract and how you can add value to case reports. In addition to pathology, I also have some background in medical education. I know from the literature that online lectures are typically a passive experience for you, the learner, and what you read and see and hear has low learning retention. Online lecture recordings are up here in the low retention part of the pyramid. The person who will have learned the most from this presentation is me, because I'm teaching you. But by incorporating some practice doing and some discussion in the form of questions and answers, we can turn this passive online lecture into a high retention, active learning experience. That's why I'm going to pose questions to you to activate the priming effect in your brain to help your learning and retention. To get the most learning, you should commit to writing down the answers. It's okay, no one else will see them. Writing down is more powerful than just thinking of the answers in your head. Why? Because writing down makes abstract thinking concrete. Making concrete examples is another effective learning strategy. So, pause the video and get a pen and paper or your notebook. Good teaching also explicitly states the learning objectives listed here. You'll know which learning objective I'm talking about because it's the titles of the slides coming up. So with your piece of paper or open notebook and pen, write down your key points defining what is an abstract. Pause the video here. This is what the literature and online guides say. See, the key words here are brief, summary, and why. What key concepts did your answers capture? Next, write down your understanding of the purpose of an abstract from these three questions. Pause the video while you write. Writing an abstract is a compulsory part of entering your poster or presentation into a scientific conference. That is an external motivator. Other motivators are when the abstract is published, typically in the supplementary issue of a journal, you can add this publication to build your CV. Abstracts are a form of communication to share and find your findings, but also to stimulate discussion and an exchange of ideas, comments, or even criticisms. Abstracts are often the first step on the pathway to the publication of a fully peer-reviewed journal article. Who reads it? The first person is the abstract reviewer. To get your abstract accepted, the format has to be written within the specifications defined by the particular conference. Since abstracts are published, they can be read by anyone online forever. Why read an abstract? Well, when we have a pathology question in mind during a search on Google Scholar or on PubMed, This is when we scan the title and abstract to see if it is relevant to answer our question. Some words about format. On the left, we have a structured abstract with headings and a sentence or two under each heading. On the right is an unstructured narrative abstract where the sections of the abstract are in running sentences. As a reviewer, I find the structured abstract quicker and easier to read, and as a reader, I also find the structured abstract quicker and easier to find specific information. Here is an unstructured abstract. The activity is read this text and answer the question. Were cases with ALK alterations included? Yes or no? I'll pause for 5 seconds while you read. Did you find the answer? I expect not. This is the same abstract in a structured format. The question is, were cases with ALK alterations included? Well, inclusion criteria are part of method. Read the methods and answer the question. I'll wait for 5 seconds. The answer is no cases with ALK were included. See how it is quicker and easier to find information in a structured abstract. Okay, you'll note this was a study of 123 cases. What about single case reports? Can they be structured? Of course. Here is an example. There are only 3 headings. Next, let's look at the Australasian Pathology Conference instructions for abstract submissions. The subheadings are the same. The word counts are similar. These 5 headings with aims, methods and results suit research studies such as case series, audits, test validations, whereas single case reports suit simplified subheadings. The first thing you read is the title, so they're important. Here are 10 published titles from the anatomical pathology articles and courses. The activity here is to pause the recording and read all the titles. Then pick your top 2 titles that appeal to you. It could be because they are memorable or interesting. Write down the numbers. And then write down why you liked those 2 favourite titles. Then pick the 2 titles that least appeal to you. Perhaps they sound uninteresting or confusing. Write down the numbers and write down why these 2 titles were least appealing to you. Pause the video while you perform this activity. I'll share my 2 favourite titles. Number 4, B cells behaving badly. This has anthropomorphism, idiom, and alliteration with the repeated B sound. And it's humorous and creates a visual image which makes it memorable. It makes me think of a classroom full of naughty children. My second favourite is number 3, Stuck in the Muck. Again, it has alliteration with the M words, muck, murky and mucinous, rhyming, and the use of idiom. The third place getter for me is number 5, placentaphobia. It's a title I invented for a teaching presentation many years ago, based on my observations of many people's phobic feelings about placentas. Actually, my favourites all seem to have 2 clauses separated by a colon or a hyphen. My least favourite titles are number 1, 9 and 10, because there are acronyms without explanation, and so I don't understand them. Which titles give information about the outcome of the study? The blue or the yellow version? Pause the video to read and compare. The yellow titles, which give the outcome of the study, are called declarative titles, also known as informational titles. The titles in blue, which do not give the outcome of the study, are called descriptive. For example, the phrase effect of does not give the direction of the study outcome, whereas the yellow outcome, the title says, negatively affects. For the second example, the role of something does not give information about the actual mechanism, whereas the yellow title does, necrosis and mitochondria. Why should we care about declarative versus descriptive titles? Well, research into the bibliometrics shows that the declarative or informational titles with simple words were more likely to be highly cited articles. So we're thinking of our audience. We should fix common writing mistakes by being aware of them in the first place. This is a revision of the pre-work online lesson, which should be done in conjunction with this online presentation. You'll find the link below the video. It's also at this bit.ly URL. There are some common deficiencies I see when reviewing abstract, particularly with case reports. Number 1. There is no differential diagnosis. As a reader, I want to know about pitfalls and mimics, the wolves in sheep's clothing, or conversely, the paper tigers. Number 2. The purpose of a publication is to add to the existing body of published knowledge. You have to explain what gap in the existing literature you are filling. Number 3. Case reports particularly have a lack of significance, particularly when the discussion reads like it was copied from a paragraph in a textbook. I would rather read the textbook. Rarity alone is not significant. I read so many single case reports that are about a rare case of X. Actually, this is probably the most common sort of case report. Number 4. Each word takes up word count. I don't need to know the exact millimeters of the tumour in 3 dimensions, but I do need to know if feature A is a pitfall that could cause me to make an incorrect diagnosis. This is the wolf in sheep's clothing idea. Next, let's look at different types of research and studies. Yes, this is another colourful pyramid diagram, with the most significant and impactful studies at the top. Actually, not meta-analysis, but even better, its application as the clinical practice guideline. In anatomical pathology, the most common type of conference abstract is the single case report. These comprise well over 50% of submissions. Where does the single case report fit on the hierarchy of evidence? Did you spot it? It is here at the bottom of the human studies. There is necessarily no study design, and it is retrospective. A case series is better than a single case report because there's more to discuss. Other types of studies commonly submitted are audits and validations of new tests. These are typically retrospective. Observational studies, and if they have controls and statistical analysis, then they are of a better quality. They would fall in the yellow zone. But this pyramid is designed for clinical medicine with evaluation of treatment in randomized controlled trials. The higher levels in this pyramid have little relevance to pathology. This has led these authors to propose a pathology-specific hierarchy of evidence levels, with level 1 being the highest level of evidence. But again, the individual case report is where? Can you find it? Well, here it is. It's at the bottom. It is of least significance. Types of studies with higher level of evidence involve multiple cases with controls, with validation of results, prospective if possible. Even better is when multiple institutions contribute data, a win-win situation for people in both institutions. The authors also suggest 4 study design elements to increase the level of evidence. See if you can incorporate at least some of these design elements. In summary, you need more cases with controls and statistics to make for a higher level of evidence. You may need to engage with a biostatistician at your institution to help you with your study design to ensure you collect enough cases to power a significant result. So, with levels of evidence in mind, here is a typical abstract marking criteria that I, as an abstract judge, have to use. It's issued by the conference organisers, and each abstract judge uses the same criteria. When I score case reports, the originality is usually 1. As I said, a rare case of X is one of the most common types of abstract submitted. The significance relates to the level of evidence and impact on future research or health outcomes. Think of the hierarchy of evidence. A single case report is 1. Therefore, case reports cannot compete with studies needing design such as even case series or audits, validation of tests, multi-institutional studies, and those with statistical analysis. Now, for the next activity. Take a screen snip of this rubric of marking criteria. The keyboard shortcut for screen snip is on Windows is Windows logo key plus Shift plus S all at the same time. The next activity is you get to judge 2 different abstracts. You get 3 minutes for each abstract. The typical amount of time an abstract judge would have to read and review. Actually, 3 minutes is quite generous. Get out your phone and set the 3-minute timer. Open the abstract marking criteria screen snip. It's to be found in your File Explorer, Pictures, Screenshots folder. Keep it open in a different part of your screen from the video. Pause the video. You judge the abstract according to the marking criteria. Use the 3-minute timer on your phone. Pause before you go to the next activity. Okay, we'll repeat the activity with a different type of study. Pause the video and take 3 minutes to judge this abstract. How did the grade of the case report compare to the survey study? I would grade the case report as 1 for originality and 1 for significance. There was a differential diagnosis included, and the central mass was thought to be a hepatocellular carcinoma but turned out to be the neonatal liver. This is a paper tiger on radiology, but easy on pathology. The content was detailed and the conclusion looping back to the embryology was relevant and appropriate. 5 for content. It was understandable, so the writing style 4, total score 11. In comparison, the survey originality was at least a 3, maybe a 4. It was specifically designed to answer the recruitment question in an Australian context. The significance is much higher than a single case report because the results could result in changes in recruitment of future pathologists, so a 4. The content was clear, the literature review was stated, but the survey results were yet to be analysed, so a 3. The writing style was understandable, so a 4. Total score 14 or 15, compared to 11 for the case report. And this is despite even the survey results not yet being available. The single case report is never going to score highly against other types of studies because of its low complexity, and low significance. On the other hand, a single case report is a good place to start for your very first abstract. But I do expect you to move on to more complex types of studies for subsequent abstracts and posters. If you are writing a single case report abstract, get these resources together: textbook, journal articles, copy of the pathology report, radiology report, clinic letters. Then, when you are ready to write, probably after this presentation, extract the information to complete this activity. The key is the discussion. This is where you address why your topic is important and try and get to a significance beyond rarity alone. As I said before, a rare case of X is the most common type of single case report, and it is of little significance. In contrast, if your work is a research study, and by that I mean anything not a single case report, and a study would include case series, audit, validation of a new test, such as a new immuno, fish, genetics or genomics, a good place to start is with these 8 question prompts designed by Robert Brown. Come back after the presentation and allow 30 minutes. Then, after you have completed Brown's 8 question prompts, go on to write under the subheadings required by the conference abstract guidelines. Then you will progress to the review process using online tools, your peers and your supervisor. Improving your abstract is a process of change over time with learning loops. When writing draft 0, the very first one, use online writing tools to improve the grammar and style, for example, and then move to getting feedback from others, including your peers and supervisors. You write, get feedback, improve. Change it, get feedback, improve more. Change more, get feedback, and it gets better. We can use online writing tools to give us feedback as we write to improve the abstract. For example, using the passive voice checker in Microsoft Word. This was covered in the online abstract writing lesson. The link is below the video and at this bit.ly URL. Another online writing tool is the Writer's Diet, a free open access website where you paste your abstract into a box and the algorithm analyzes the words and gives you a result. In this case, it's flabby. I need to reduce my zombie nouns and increase my active verbs. I want my writing to be trim and fit. So, those are some online writing tools to give you feedback as you write. But what about people? Let's acknowledge now, feedback is an emotional business, as shown in this cartoon sequence. This is the feedback giver, your supervisor, giving you feedback, rather inexpertly. Feedback given inexpertly can cause discomfort for both the sender, your supervisor, and you, the recipient. Is the feedback sender's job over once they have sent the information? One and done? Well, obviously that's a rhetorical question. Of course not. Feedback for improvement is a process and it occurs via learning loops. You, the registrar, work with your peers, other registrars, your study group, and your journal club. What does this look like in reality? Here is the abstract writer in orange. You, the registrar. You write out version 0, a rough draft, and use online writing tools to correct your grammar and increase the concision. But you know it's not the best it could be. So you submit this draft to between 1 and 3 colleagues, fellow registrars and peers who are similar to your intended audience. Give them a due date for feedback, typically a week, and then incorporate their feedback into the next draft, which will be version 1. This feedback allows you to get the perspective of your potential audience. Ask your peer reviewers specifically what is confusing or misleading from a reader's perspective. The overall aim is to help you to find any gaps or inconsistencies. As a registrar, you have the advantage of having a supervisor. Work with your supervisor next by discussing the review plan and the timeline. Registrar tasks are in orange. You've got to the first draft by using online writing tools and the peer feedback in the previous slide. The supervisor is in blue, me in this case. The supervisor, me, I review your version 1 and I provide you with external feedback on how to improve the writing. You act on the feedback and write version 2 and resubmit to me, your supervisor, for comments. Expect several feedback loops to improve your abstract. A common complaint from the registrars is the supervisor feedback is not helpful, such as, "Yeah, good," or "advice to add more detail," but no advice as to what to cut out so you don't go over the word count. So, to get useful feedback from your supervisor, you, the registrar, should be proactive and ask for specific advice. For example, is my conclusion supported by my results? Or, what parts of the case report should I prioritize or cut out to meet the word count? Question time. So, how many weeks in advance should you allow for this process? We are all busy with cut-up and reporting, so realistic, it may take you a week to write and your supervisor a week to review. In this scenario, you need to start at least how many weeks before the abstract due date? 7. And now for something different, a future-focused diversion. In contrast to the age-old traditional words-only abstract, I introduce you to the visual abstract. This was developed in 2016 in response to science communication on smartphones by social media. It's designed to be understood in a 20-second glance while scrolling social media on your phone. And this is the written abstract of the visual abstract on the Pathology Journal website. It's a bit hard to read on the phone. And here is a recent visual abstract published on the RCPA website, link below. And as an optional activity, you can find examples of many visual abstracts of pathology articles in the RCPA Structured Reporting of Pathology of Cancer newsletter published online on the RCPA website. Making a visual abstract is a different presentation and workshop. I show them to you here to raise your awareness that there is more than just the written abstract as a form of science communication. When your abstract is published, you can reference it in your CV. Here is an example. See, it's in a supplementary issue. The whole abstract is available on the open internet, and you get a DOI, a digital object identifier, which is a unique link to your abstract. And this is how I would reference it. Now let's close this online presentation loop by revisiting the learning objectives. We talked about the purpose of an abstract. Basically, it's about knowing your audience, selecting a structured abstract, the test for good titles being the declarative or informative title with simple words. We learnt about passive voice, third person, and zombie nouns, which are common writing mistakes and how to correct them. And we understand now how abstracts are marked and graded by abstract judges, taking into account the evidence levels and significance of a study type. Finally, and most importantly, we discussed feedback for improvement using tools, peers, and your supervisor. So that concludes the online presentation. However, wait, there is more, because this presentation is accompanied by an online lesson, and the link is below the video or at this URL, where you learn about active versus passive first-person pronouns and zombie nouns. A book I recommend is this one by Matt Carter. You can open the free preview version on Google Books and read chapter 5 on words. It's also good for designing posters. I'd like to acknowledge my colleagues Evie and Alyssa from the University of Auckland, and thank you for coming with me on this journey. I look forward to reading and judging your improved abstracts in the future.